Hello, hello, and thank you for tuning in. It's Brandi's world. Your child has just come out to you as trans, and you don't know what to do. Let's talk about that. You are probably confused and unsure of what to do next. Well, I'm here to help. First of all, relax. It's not the end of the world. In fact, being trans is not even the poisoned well that our society is trying to make it to be. Being trans can be pretty wonderful as long as you have a support system and you're able to express who you are in a safe environment, in a warm, loving environment. It's awesome to be trans, because to be trans means to express your identity. It means to express your gender identity. Now, you're probably saying, Brandi, what do you mean by that? I'm so confused already. So let's back up. What does it mean to be trans? What does it mean to be trans for your child? And what does it mean for you, for as a parent, to have a child who is trans? So let's take a step back, and first of all, we say, well, to be trans means to transition. But transition from what to what is the thing. And this is where a lot of the confusion comes in. When a person is transitioning, they are not transitioning their identity. And I think a lot of people are mistaken by thinking that. And I guess it's not really clear to the general public what is happening when someone is transitioning. We live in a binary gender structure, right? In our society, we have a concept and a construct of gender identity, and we put this gender identity into two columns or two boxes, as you will, box A or box B. Now, if your identity does not align with that assignment, the transition part is to transition the expression of your identity and the performance of your identity from one box or one column, one binary, to the other column, box, or binary, however you want to refer to it. So, you may be asking, well, what does it even mean to be cis? You're throwing a lot of terms out here, Brandi. So, what it means to be cis and what it means to be non-cis or non-binary. If you agree with the gender label assigned to you at your birth, then you are a cis person. Yeah, most people in our society are cis people. Most people, when they question their inner identity, it aligns with the box they were assigned at birth. And if that happens and that's you, you're cis. But if you look inside yourself and you look at that inner identity, that you-ness, and it does not align with that label that was assigned to you, then you are not cis or you're non-cis. Or in our society, it's binary in our concept of gender, so you'd be non-binary. Now, a portion of those people who are non-binary or non-cis may see themselves in an image that more closely aligns in the other concept box in the binary. So, like me, I looked into myself and I discovered my gender identity. In discovering that gender identity, I wanted to express it. And so that shifting my expression from trying to do all of the things that was in the box I was assigned at birth, I looked in myself and I wanted to express outward that inner self. And I'm getting close. This is me. This is my expression because this is closely aligned with how I see myself. And so my transition is on the outside of me. My transition is transitioning my expression to more closely align with my identity. Not changing my identity. I discovered my identity and I want to express it. And that is what a transgender person is saying. That is when they say, I am trans, they're saying, I have discovered, I have looked inside and I see that person inside that who is me, that inner core of me. And it does not align with this assignment I have. I want to express who I am. And I need the support structure to help me with that transition of my gender expression and gender performance from one binary to the other binary. So you may be asking, well, what does that mean for me as a parent? As a parent, it means your child is looking inward, and that's a pretty good thing. Would you not agree? Your child then is trying to connect with that inner self, and they want to express that. And so you as a parent, you ask yourself, do I want to support my child expressing who they are, discovering who they are, and expressing it? That expression may not be in line with the mold that you had as a concept when you first found out you're going to be a parent to that child. I'm sure you had dreams of how that child's going to grow and blossom and bloom and be part of society. And I'm sure you've had images of what that would look like in your child, in your offspring. How would they express themselves in society? And what is going on is your child has discovered that that's not them. So you have to realize that too, unless you want to try to shape and mold a child into something that they're not, and force them to express something that they're not. I see that as a parent, the only real choice is to support your child and love them. Because that's what it will take. Because your relationship with your child will shift. Of course it will shift. Relationship with every child shifts many times throughout your lifetime. And it will grow. And you helping your child through an expression of themselves, you can bond with that child in ways that you never even dreamt of. Because, wow, being there to support your child going through a major questioning in their life, saying, I question whether I should express myself or not to express myself. As a child, I did not have the opportunity to express myself. I did not get to express myself. I didn't discover my gender identity as a child. I didn't ask those types of questions. But that's a different talk. And you're not concerned with my childhood. You're concerned with your child's hood. Your child. And that's what is important here. Your child. For me, it would be a very easy, non-traumatic choice to say, yes, I want to support this child I love. I want them to express who they are. In fact, I want to understand them, their inner self. And if they're not able to express that inner self, how are you ever going to understand that inner self? Right? So as a parent, you're going to need to listen to your child, because they're probably going to be a little confused about what's going on with their body and in their head and in their hearts, and in why society is lashing out against people like them at this time in our society. They're going to go through a lot. It's not easy being trans in the United States of America in 2023. There are a lot of laws and bills written. Hundreds and hundreds of these bills across these United States are being written today, tomorrow, and yesterday that are targeting transgender people, that are advantageous for our existence, that are making it more difficult for us to exist in society. They are trying to push us further to the margins of our society, not just your neighbor or your ignorant uncle who comes on Thanksgiving and says dumb things and asks dumb questions. It is people who are writing bills, lawmakers, and they are under the impression that their constituents want them to write bills who discriminate against transgender people. This is scary, y'all. And why am I bringing this up? Because it is ramping up. This pushing against transgender people to be in society, to be around everyone else. They're trying to make that difficult. And that means that they're directly attacking not just me as a trans person, and not just the trans person that you read about in the news or in the paper or in some foreign land or some crazy story you've heard. All of these bills and this bend in our fabric of society to push us towards the margins will affect you directly and your child directly. The next generation of transgender people in this country are going to have to fight back against the bills being written in today's climate. They're going to have a lot of work ahead of them. Transgender people have a long road ahead until we are anywhere near normality and equality in our society. So we need support structures, support systems, and some of the best support can come from close to that person. The parents, the siblings, the close friends. We as society need to stop shunning people for expressing their inner identity. Expressing who they are is making people into boogeymen. That's how we are being reflected in the media masses across the United States, in the media in masses across Europe, in the newspapers, in the social media blogs, on YouTube. Everywhere you turn, it is an easy target to bash trans people because we are the boogeyman in society that's right around the corner. You don't quite know, but you're scared of. You haven't quite seen or quite interacted yet, but they're scary. That is messages that are coming across, and those messages are not going to go on deaf ears. Those messages are not going to go unheard. There are building up a powder keg of hate towards the trans community right now in today's climate. And if your child had just come out to you and said, I've looked into myself and I do not fit in that box I was assigned. I want to express myself, and it fits nicely in this other box that society has constructed and labeled as the box of the other. If our society had a concept and structure of gender on a spectrum, I would still fall like in way over on the feminine side of the spectrum, but I don't know if I fit completely in a box of femininity. Not everyone fits into boxes of gender identities. So if we had a spectrum, it wouldn't be a big deal if someone said, hey, I don't fit in this box, because there would be no box to fit in. It'd be like, oh yeah, I fit somewhere on this masculine to feminine concept we have. And it's okay to have masculine and feminine concepts, and those are going to change over time in spaces throughout cultures. Not every culture has the same concept of masculinity and the same concept of femininity. Those are cultural constructs. In the constructs that we build for femininity and masculinity in this country, right now, I fit into more of the feminine. So I am a trans woman because I was assigned box A at birth. I fit into box B because I'm allowed to express myself. I'm a grown-ass woman. I was in my 40s when I discovered my gender identity. I was in my 40s when I began to transition. I didn't have as many roadblocks in front of me as someone who is under 18. And now you're probably worried, oh my goodness, my child's going to go through so many changes. Look, your child's going to go through changes no matter what they do in life. Change is the only constant we have in life. Never fear change. But relax. Your child is not going to have the facial feminization surgeries that I've had. Your child is not going to have the breast augmentations that I have had, or many other of the surgeries I have had. I have had those surgeries because I was an adult making those adult decisions with my doctor and my insurance companies, because I live in the United States and they have a say in it as well. If your child is under 18, post-pubescent, if they've already gone through a puberty that their body has injected into them, there's going to be different options for them than for a child who discovers their gender identity pre-pubescent. But just like every other medical situation, doctors and medical experts will treat patients differently depending on the patient's needs and situations and circumstances, and the involvement with the parents, because it's still United States. They're not grabbing up children and doing experiments on them without parents knowing them. I actually heard that. I heard people say that with straight faces. But so let's talk about treatment for transgender children. Let's say your child has come to you and said, I know you're a loving and understanding parent, and that's why I can come to you and say, I do not belong in the gender assigned box I was assigned. I want to express myself, and I believe it fits in this other concept of gender, in the other box. And you're like, yes, I'm a loving, caring parent. I'm going to look into this, and we're going to go through this together, because I'm going to be there for you. So what do we need to expect? First of all, what you do is immediately after watching this video is you look into the experts. Google Scholar. So when you get your Google machine open, put scholar in there and see what the scholars have to say about the subject. You scholar, and then you colon, and then you type in the subject, transgender treatment for gender dysphoria under 18 or whatever. You're going to find lots of studies. So I'm not the expert. I'm not going to be talking about what the experts have to say. It's out there, people. But what we are going to talk about is what can you generally expect. If your child is under 18, do not expect that child to be getting surgeries. No, that's usually not going to be the case. I can see if the parent's involved and the kid is a very mature 16, 17-year-old, it could be discussed on the table. As a parent, I probably wouldn't go for any types of surgeries for my child under 18 unless they were so life-threatening and immediate that they needed to be done before 18. So, we'll get into some of these surgeries, if not done for certain people, could be a treatment they're missing out on that it could really affect the quality of their life. So, kind of not worried about surgeries under 18, especially if they're prepubescent. A prepubescent child, let's say that child comes to you and says, I am trans. I want to express me. And you're like, cool. You haven't even gone through a puberty that is unwanted yet. Because think about it, y'all. Puberty is a flushing, an injection of hormones into a person, right? I've gone through 2 puberties. I went through an androgen-driven puberty when I was about 16. And that was not a good puberty for me. I didn't know at the time why it felt so awful, and I didn't like it. Looking back, I wish I could have not had to go through that experience. I wish I could have stopped or slowed down that experience. And then when I discovered my gender identity in my 40s, I said, hey, I can treat this. And one of the best treatments for gender dysphoria was my hormone replacement therapy. Was to stop that androgen-driven testosterone that was flowing through my body because it did not feel right in my body. Stop that and introduce estrogen. It works so good for my gender dysphoria. Again, when your kid's over 18, we'd start discussing more like that. Because the hormone replacement therapy, I don't think that should be introduced into children. I'm not an expert, and I'm sure experts can argue with me to say maybe 16, 17-year-old kids. I'm open to that argument. But I don't think under 18, a replacement in hormones, unless medically needed, unless the doctor's like, yo, this child is going to be seriously ill unless we do this. Yes, then let's do this. But if it is because you can slow down the unwanted hormones coming into that child, prepubescent, like when they get to that stage when they're starting, their body's getting ready to flood the systems with a hormone that's not going to be advantageous for their body, for them to be comfortably expressing who they are, you can slow that down or block it. And that's what people get all afraid of. Hormone blockers. Woo! They're not that scary, y'all. It's not just trans kids who get hormone blockers. Cis kids get them too. Cis kids who start puberties at an age way too young for them to mentally handle that, doctors will put them on hormone blockers. You can slow that down. We can slow it down and have them go through a puberty that's more comfortable for their body and their mindset. The same thing is happening here with trans children. Children are trans, it's going to be advantageous for them not to experience a lot of the morphing of bodies that happens, like especially androgen. If you introduce androgen into the body, it reshapes like bone in the face. It reshapes so much that you can't just bend back. It takes facial feminization surgery to undo that. You can prevent these surgeries by preventing what causes the need for the surgeries. That is key. I was like, oh my God, if I had discovered my gender identity when I was a kid, if I was in an environment where you could question and go, oh my goodness, this answers so many questions. That would have been awesome. If I could have slowed down this unwanted masculine androgen-driven puberty, and if I could have then as a young adult introduced the puberty, the androgen, the estrogen-driven puberty that my body was so much more comfortable in, oh my goodness, that would have been amazing. That would have been so amazing. I didn't have that opportunity. I was not able to do that. But a child today can, with informed, understanding, caring, empathetic parents. You can help your child express them in such a wonderful way, especially if they're young. It's like, yes, if they're young, we can treat inflictions before they become huge inflictions. Get it? So, in the medical side, at the most, a prepubescent child may get introduced to puberty blockers, and they may not. The doctor may be like, no, we're not, we looked it over, you're not getting them. It's not, you just demand them as soon as you announce you're trans. It doesn't work like that. So, the major support they're going to need for, and the step they can take without any doctors, with the help of their parents, is the socially transition. Yes, and that is probably the most important part of any transition, is the socially. We are social creatures. We are humans. We evolved to be hypersocial. We have groups around us and groups around them, and we interact with many different groups of people throughout our lifetimes and throughout our days. And when we're able to socially express who we are, it makes us better people. It makes everyone around us better to know us because they're knowing us. They're knowing me. As long as I can express me, you have access to get to know me. If I cannot express me, how do you get to know me? Same with your child. You're going to only get to know a molded frame of childhood that you try to construct? Or do you actually want to get to know your child? Do it with empathy and love and listen to them. And you've heard me talk a lot about gender dysphoria. And you're like, Brandi, what is all this gender dysphoria talk? Everyone's saying gender dysphoria. I don't know if it's good, bad, what the hell is it? So gender dysphoria is when your gender identity is not aligned with your gender expression. So think of gender identity as the same kind of term as like your handedness. Like, I can ask you, what hand are you? I can hand you a writing utensil and you can pick it up and write with one or the other hands, and most likely you only do it with one hand. You have handedness. But you cannot demonstrate your handedness without expressing it, could you? Right? Same thing with your gender identity. I cannot see gender identity. You cannot see my gender identity. No one can ever see your gender identity or anyone else's gender identity. All you can ever see is someone's expression, because the expression is a reflection of the identity. Just like you express your left-handedness. Take away your hand, you're still left-handed. Or maybe you're right-handed, and then you're right-handed. But we can only know if you express it. Right? Same concept of gender identity. You do not have access to your child's gender identity. Your spouse, your partner, your parents, everyone in your life has never had access to your identity. You have only expressed it. They can only read your expression. They can only interact with your expression. But a good thing with cis people, most people, their identity and their expression are aligned. And they don't experience a misalignment of that expression in that identity. So, when you look inside yourself and you see that image, that person, and then you look inside a mirror, a social mirror, friends around you, the mirror on your wall, whichever mirror you look in, and that reflection is misaligned with when you close your eyes and you really look inside of you. That can be very hurtful. And when you try to express it and you're missing that mark and that's just not coming out, that expression is not there to connect with your identity, and it hurts. That is the dysphoria. And sounds scary, and it is scary. It sucks. Gender dysphoria sucks. It can be crippling. Oh my goodness, it could be so horrendous to people at times. But there's good news. It's very treatable. And patient to patients need different treatments. There's not one blanket treatment for gender dysphoria. Just not, here's a gender dysphoria pill and it's going to be cured. No, a lot of it is going to have to be done with support systems around the person, because they need that mirror reflection too. You need that help to say, boom, I'm trying to express me. And to be able to express me, I need to see that reflection back. So when I use the name that best expresses me, and your child may want to express a name not assigned to them. Brandi was not assigned to me. I express me. I am Brandi. All of my government identities are Brandi. My social life reflects Brandi. Every aspect of my life, when I say Brandi, it reflects back to me. So that eases gender dysphoria. When I close my eyes, I see a feminine face. Not the most beautiful face, but I see a pretty cute feminine face. Granted, it's 50 some years old. But and then when I look in the social mirror, when I see something similar to that reflected back at me, it eases that gender dysphoria. Believe me. I've experienced gender dysphoria when I've looked out into my social mirror and I've looked into the mirror on my wall and I did not see anything close to what I could see inside of me. Whew, that was painful. I would not be able to be doing this, especially with my face with no makeup on. No, that took treatments. Facial feminization was an excellent treatment for me. But I hope your child never has to go through facial feminization surgery. It was not fun either. No, not at all. Can be prevented. You can prevent unnecessary surgeries. Mine was necessary to treat my gender dysphoria. But if I didn't have to do it, I wouldn't have done it. It was a lot. I've gone through a lot of surgeries. Not because I love surgery, because I dislike dysphoria. And if you can prevent a lot of dysphoria that's brought in by an unwanted puberty, that is a good thing. That is a good thing. Look, when someone expresses themselves as trans, they are expressing who they are. They are not trying to isolate themselves from others, from society. Society is trying to isolate us from them. And that is scary. So as a parent, a few ingredients you need if your child comes out to you as trans. There are a few ingredients, and that's it, just a few ingredients you need. Inform yourself. Do good research. Don't just look at YouTube. Do good research on what to expect. What treatments are out there for dysphoria when your child starts to experience dysphorias. With your help and love, they need you to listen with open ears and an open heart. Use empathy and understanding, and love them. Help them express who they are. Isn't that important? Is it important for you to know your child? And isn't it important for your child to express who they are? Thank you. Bye-bye for now.